Teacher Survivalist Module 3, Coworker Attendance, Accounting for Others' Roles on Your Team, Creating New Connections. In Module 3, you'll be working to understand how you're being connected with others around you. Through a simple evaluation system that you're going to be utilizing with the companion resource today, you'll be assessing how others are calling on you in your work environment. You'll be looking at things like, are they calling on you for fun, listening, crisis, scheduling issues, things of that nature, to get a better idea of how others are seeing you and hopefully how you are going to see other people on your team or in your work life. In addition to taking attendance of how you're being perceived, you're going to also be writing new attendance or connection prompts so that you can help make new connections with other people in your building. Though this is a companion resource, it's all about reading between the lines of what people are saying to you or asking of you. So this week, you'll just need an awareness. Today's module is an excellent companion to the vacation persona module that you completed or are going to be completing soon. Through today's module, you'll be able to identify personal characteristics that you either enjoy that people call on you for or are causing you anxiety, overwhelm, and stress. Take your time assessing yourself throughout the week and enjoy this week's module on understanding how others around you are calling on you.
You don't need to try so hard. Realize you're right where you need to be. You had it from the very start.
It's the attendance episode where we call on those people around us just like we call on them in our classroom. So what we're going to do is look at how taking attendance in our classroom tells us a little bit about our students and their preferences and how we can kind of use that in our everyday life with the people around us as well. We're going to jump right in as we take roll call, taking the attendance of your life. So just like in class, it's probably my least favorite thing to do. Well, probably not my least, but it's one of my less favorite things to do as a teacher is call roll, especially on those first days of school. And I don't. And that's part of what we'll talk about today is maybe looking at things a little bit different when it comes to calling on your students. And in turn, as we'll discuss later in the episode, how do you call on the people in your life? What do you do when it's time to reach out to a friend or when you want to hang? And quite honestly, are you being annoying? Ooh, yeah. So we'll start with the part about, taking attendance in your classroom. So what we're looking at here across the board, across all the topics we're covering today is what response are you getting when you reach out or when you call attendance? All right, so in classroom, as I described, kind of, within seconds of starting today's episode, is, here, present. Sometimes you'll just get silence. And you're like, are they here? And some other kid will say they're there. But anyway, when you call on students, especially in those first days of school, or you'll catch some attitude because you've said the name wrong, rightfully so, usually. But there's kind of three responses-ish, I'm sure you could add to this if you wanted, that we get when we take attendance in our classroom. So the first one is present but no response. That's that wonderful, awkward one. It can mean, again, that you called the wrong name, you mispronounced the name, or maybe that they go by a nickname. And I'll tell you what, man, those kids love to make you suffer those first days of school. And they will just make you feel like you're the idiot and you've made some kind of tragic mistake because you don't know they go by Jay instead of Jonathan or whatever it is. So present but no response. This is one that I would caution you to kind of wait and see. Try not to make those judgments, but just wait and see why they're not responding. The second one is going to be present and eager. Here, hi, it's good to see you. First day of school. Those kids, they usually have a nice tonality to their voice. You can always hear them. You know who they are. And these are the kids that you'll get to know immediately. The ones that you know are ready to go, whether it's socially or they're there for the content or whatever it might be. And then the third category of responses you get when you call attendance those first few days of school is, I call it present and present. It means they're there, and sure, they'll do whatever you need them to do. They're present and present. So in another module, we talked about our hitchhiker response. That would be kind of the present but no response. We talked about our steamrollers. They would be kind of the present and eager people. And then we talked about our participants. Those would be kind of like the present and present people. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of a feel for how we take attendance in our classrooms. But today's really about how we're calling on people in our everyday life and how what that looks like. And so what we're going to start with today is, why are you calling on people? Why are you reaching out to people? Connection is so important. And so I don't want to get today's episode twisted up with like avoiding connection or running away from it. It's just it's more of a way of you being a little bit more reflective and kind of analyzing if people are kind of pushing back from you or leaning into you. Maybe you'll kind of be able to see why that is. Your companion resource for this module is your tally list. It's going to be your why are you being called on tally list. So anyway, it's just a little checklist that you're going to create, and you're just going to monitor it for 1 week, 5 days even. You can just do the business days if you'd like. And there's different categories. You can add to them. You can take away from them as you want. But there's need, fun, listen, crisis, memory, schedule, or random. Those are the categories. And so every time throughout the week, this week, what I'm going to challenge you to do, what I'm going to ask you to do, is just put a little hashtag. Every text, every message, every phone call. And that can sound daunting and overwhelming, but if you really want to get to know how your relationships with other people are doing, this is kind of a major step in that direction. It also will give you a chance to really tally up, am I connecting enough? Am I connecting enough with people? Am I reaching out to people enough? So that's the tally mark list. You can kind of work with that as needed towards the end. So why are you calling on people? Really start to think about that as we work our way through. We're going to put that aside, and we're going to start to think about, how are we calling on people? So if you are messaging, if you are calling people, if you are doing all of these things, what is your method? What do you say when you call someone on the phone? What do you say when you message somebody on Messenger? What is it? Let me tell you something. I get some weird messages sometimes. And before we jump into this is something that I personally have to kind of work on and through myself. I'm teaching virtually. My connections have not been as strong. I haven't reached out to people as much. And quite honestly, I'm not very good at responding to messages. So I'll talk a little bit about that as we go through today. But how are you reaching out to people? So if you are going to send a message, does it say, hey? Well, as somebody on the other end, me, if I get a message that says, hey, I think, what am I supposed to do with that? I am kind of a deep person. At least I like to think so. So either let's be fun, let's be silly, or ask me what you need to ask me and I'll help you with it, or we can work things out as best as possible. But hey, I can't do anything with. I also like to remember the poke button on Facebook. It was like the most random thing ever, where somebody that maybe you haven't talked to in 6 months or a year would just poke you. It was kind of the same thing as somebody being like, hey, or like the same friend that you have that constantly messages and like, how's your week? How's your week? How's your week? I'm like, well, it's been 56 weeks. And I don't know what else to say to that. It's good. Can you ask me something different? But anyway, the poke button I found annoying because I was like, I don't know what to do with that. What do I say now? And so I was that person that was just like, poke back. That's fine. As somebody that likes to have deeper conversations, these kind of like throwaway introductions or conversation starters are not my favorite. Now, I do think that if you are somebody who's a little bit deeper and you constantly have these deep conversations, just throwing the poke button out to an old friend might be a nice way to start something. All right, so let's get away from some of these normal generic lead-in messages that are being sent or lead-in phone calls. If I hear from my father, it's, hey, how are you? How are the kids? How are that? And it's like a script of how is this? How is that? How is this? How is that? And we do fall into those routines with people, and that's okay. But if you're looking to re-engage, or if you're looking to take attendance for someone in a new way and get a different response from them, if you're sick of them being present but not responsive, or present and eager and present, whatever, then let's spice it up a little bit. So these generic lead-in conversation starters are the same thing as calling attendance in a classroom. It's monotonous, it's repetitive, you get the same responses each time. And if I spent my entire school year calling on John and hearing present, I may never, ever, ever get to know that person at all. And so in my classroom, instead of saying their name and then they have to tell me present or whatever, I'll just throw out a random question. And this is what I think you should start doing in your daily life. So if you're starting to notice that a friendship or relationship's becoming a little stale, and you're looking at kind of like your interactions with that person, this is a way to kind of realize, ooh, I need to probably get to know them a little bit better. And so next time you reach out, try something completely random. Throw them off a little bit. You can come up with a really weird question, or you can kind of give a which would you choose option instead. So instead of, just think of it as like, I'm going to text my friend Kate, and this is a real person. And with Kate, I know that Kate likes to be active. We typically go for walks together. We enjoy talking together. But if we got in the habit of saying like, how's your week? Good. How's this? Good. Da, da, da. Instead, the next message I would send Kate would just say park, comma, brewery, comma, drive, question mark, and see what kind of response I get back. Now, when I'm calling attendance on Kate, there's something to go off of. There's something new there. Now Kate has to kind of tell me, well, things have been really crazy this week. Let me tell you why. Or she could simply respond and say, park sounds great. What time? And right there, plans have been made. So it really opens the door for more. Ooh, I like that. Let's open the door for more with our attendance strategies here. All right. Another thing that you could do is just ask a really random question. And normally I don't like the idea of close-ended questions, yes, no's, whatever. But in this situation, I think it might be a good way to go because it gives the person the option to back off or not answer if that's what they're feeling. So you might say something like, have you ever been bitten by an animal? And they could say no, or they could say yes. And either way, if they respond, that's good. That means you've gotten some engagement. And from there, if they have, you could open the door to kind of learning about them and hearing the story about how they got bit by a dog when they were 6. I don't know, but it's just a different level of connection. You've got to start breaking up these monotonous calls. Let's face it. There are people in our lives who call attendance on us constantly. And the only thing they are calling us for is to talk about their nothing. Yeah, they're going to call us to talk about their nothing. What I mean by that is they call, and what they want to talk about is Josephine from church's best friend who's dying of cancer. Yes, that's sad, but that is not a connection. That's barely a connection for that person. So that's what I really like about using this tally list so that you can start to kind of like see, well, am I being used or am I being utilized or am I here for fun? You can kind of like start to figure out what role your relationship is with friends or family members or whatever. So do start, kind of come up with your list of 3. We can add this to our tally list. We can create our list of 3 starters, your 3 ways to take attendance with whoever you're calling on that day or messaging on that day. And the good thing is, if it is a message and you want to like hang out with people, you can copy and paste that message and send it to 5 people. It's great. So at this point, we've covered the basic principle of taking roll or taking attendance in your life. We've related that back to the classroom setting and maybe what kind of responses we're getting from students, that whole present, but no response, present and eager, present kind of idea. But what I want to look at now is, what are these people saying to you? So when you're taking attendance and you do hear back, what are you getting compared to what should you be hearing? It's kind of like the read between the lines moment here. And you can reverse this too. Everything from today can be flipped. I know we're taking attendance for the purposes of you, but it's also introspective, and you can start to think of, what are you putting out to others? And so for the purposes of this, I just want to give you a little bit of an idea here. And when we call on someone, let's say you call on a friend and you say, hey, would you like to have dinner tonight? And you get, no, things are really crazy. Or you get, yes, sure, I'll see you in 5 minutes, whatever. What are you really hearing in that moment? So when we call on or when we take attendance, some of the things that you might be hearing underneath the response. So if it's short and it's just like, no, I can't right now, or maybe there's radio silence and you don't hear back when you call attendance, you might be hearing things like, not right now, like I can't talk right now. Or what somebody might be saying and not really sharing is, I'm not really feeling great, I'm kind of sad, and I do need you, but I don't know how to ask for that right now. Or sometimes maybe people are a little bit dismissive in their communications back and forth. And it's not really meant to be taken personally. It's just meant to, because they don't know how to say it in the right words. And let's face it, communication is such a hard concept for people to practice. But they might just really be saying like, hey, I'm sad right now and I need some time to process this on my own. Or I need a break or whatever. Other responses might be very simple, and they might be telling you, yeah, let's go. Let's do that thing. I'm ready. Very, very ready. Other people's responses might be kind of like, adventure. I'm ready for adventure. Yes, sign me up. Or sometimes the responses we get are kind of signaling like, no offense here, but I just want to sit at home and do nothing and watch a show. I don't really want to spend time with other people. I just need my space. So start thinking about what your response when you call attendance is giving back to you. So it's kind of like what's being said beyond the words. And also what this practice does is it takes you out of it. It's a way of not making you, yes, I want you to reflect and I want you to really think about what this person's trying to say, but I don't want you to take ownership of it. This isn't about you. Okay, let's think about what's going on with them, not what you think they think of you. Oh my gosh, that's like too much. And keep in mind that if you are the type of person that kind of like thinks you're at fault all the time, rarely when you're trying to hang out with somebody else and you're not getting the response that you want, very rarely are they saying, you know, I don't like you, I don't want to be friends anymore, leave me alone. Like, they're not typically trying to be harsh to you. At this point, there's really nothing else left for you to do but to go ahead and take attendance of your life. It's time to put it into practice. This is a skill that you have to work on each day. You have to reflect on each day. You have to learn how to not take things personally each day. And so the best thing you can do right now is to start kind of working your way through this process to see kind of how are you being looked at by your friends? How are you looking at other friends when you call on them? What's your connection like? Are you highly connected? Is your connection more in that medium range? Or based on your tally marks, do you fall kind of in the low count? And how can you kind of increase that? You know, if it's uncomfortable for you to reach out to people, hopefully what we've talked about today and creating some attendance strategies for yourself will help you to kind of up your engagement game here and be able to take it a little bit further. I hope that taking attendance of your life is a skill that you can hone in on and will really help you as you move forward today.
You don't need to try so